Yeah, so CAPTCHAs are these letters that you have to type. Everybody hates them, sorry. The basic idea is that you have to type them to prove that you're actually a human and not a computer program that was written to submit the form millions of times. That's the original CAPTCHA. I helped invent that maybe, I don't know, 13 years ago or so. After some time had passed, in about 2005 or so, I did a little back of the envelope calculation about how many times one of these was typed everywhere around the world, and it was about 200 million times. So 200 million times somebody typed one of these around the world. So at first I was quite proud of myself. I thought, look at the impact that I've had.
Look at all the pain you've caused. That's great.
Then I started feeling bad.
Then you started feeling bad.
Then I started feeling bad because, well, not only is it annoying, but also each time somebody types one of these, they waste about 10 seconds of their time.
Right.
And if you multiply 10 seconds by 200 million, you get that humanity as a whole is wasting about 500,000 hours every day because of this, because of me. So,
and they could be on jelly, and they're doing your stuff.
Yes, right. Exactly. So I started feeling bad. So then I started thinking, is there any way in which we can use this effort, those 10 seconds, for something that is good, that is useful? And that's what reCAPTCHA is. With reCAPTCHA, the idea is that while you're typing those letters, not only are you authenticating yourself as a human, but also you're helping to digitize books. And the way that works is there's a lot of projects trying to digitize books. So like Google, for example, has one. And the way it works is you start with a book, then you scan it. And scanning a book is like taking a digital photograph of every page of the book. It gives you an image for every page of the book. The next step in the process is that the computer needs to be able to decipher all of the words in this picture. The problem is that for older books, the computer cannot read many of the words because the ink has faded. So what we're doing now is we're taking all the words that the computer cannot recognize, and we're getting people to read them for us while they type a CAPTCHA on the internet. So next time you type a CAPTCHA, those words are actually words that are coming from a book that the computer could not recognize, and the thing you're typing, we're using it to digitize books.
So this is a big thing. It's like crowdsourcing, which is a major trend.
This would be crowdsourcing.
And Duolingo fits into that theme as well?
Right.
In what way?
Yeah, so that's my new project. It's Duolingo. This one started kind of from a different motivation. It was we wanted to give free language education for the world. That was the idea. So learning a language, there's a funny thing about learning a language. It's huge everywhere except the US, learning a foreign language. But there's about 1.2 billion people learning a foreign language.
Right, right. We've got English, so who cares? Well, some kind of English.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's 1.2 billion people. 800 million of them are first learning English. That's what they're learning. And second, they are of low socioeconomic status. Right. The reason they're learning English, in fact, is to get ahead in life. They're essentially poor people learning English so they can get a job. That's the language learning market. But the majority of solutions are paid. And yours is free? And that's the idea. What does it do? It's totally free, but the reason it can be free, the reason it can be, the way it's financed, is that there's a crowdsourcing effort in there. The idea is that while people are learning a language, they are helping to translate stuff. So whenever, after we teach you some concept, we say, hey, if you want to practice what you just learned, can you help us translate this? For example, CNN is one of our clients. So CNN gives us an article. We give it to our students to help translate it so that they can practice their language. Got it. And then CNN pays us for the translation, and our students get free language education in return. That's kind of the idea of this project. Fantastic. Really interesting. I think that's a big deal. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of, I think one of the things we're seeing is a lot more applications that are much more meaningful. So I think the way I see it is, we started with, the internet. It was to send email, essentially. Then we added kind of pictures to it. That's great. Then maybe we even added videos, and there's social networking, et cetera. But over the last year or two, we've started seeing a lot more meaningful interactions. I mean, people are now, for example, getting an entire education online. Right. So with companies like Coursera. Yes. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. We're just, not as simple as exchanging text or exchanging messages, but getting entire educations or having entire relationships online, et cetera. Got it. And do you see that sort of, it ties a bit with what Biz was saying, is he was talking a lot about sort of community and relationships. I mean, where does crowdsourcing go next, and crowdfunding and all this kind of thing? I mean, they seem to have really taken off. Is 2014 a year where they could sort of became really mainstream as opposed to a sort of still a relatively minority activity? Yeah, I believe so. I think certainly crowdfunding has taken off over the last year or so. Right. We were starting to see better things being built with crowdfunding than with the standard funding models in some cases, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I think also, I think there's a lot of different crowdsourcing efforts that we're going to be seeing. Maybe not so much in 2014. I think there's a lot to go. Right now, the crowdsourcing efforts, for example, things like helping to digitize books. People are doing relatively simple tasks, where typing a CAPTCHA is one example. It's a very simple task. I think we're going to be seeing more and more complex things happen. So Wikipedia is a really good example. It was an encyclopedia that was built by crowdsourcing. I think we're going to be seeing just much more complex things. One of the things that some people have talked about is, for example, there are many countries where the police force is not very good. In fact, it's just think of, I don't know, well, I'm from Guatemala, for example.
Right.
The police force, you don't want to call the police. They'll take your stuff.
Okay.
But can you imagine that instead of, the police force kind of broken, can we actually crowdsource
the police?
The police. Can people actually start, with technology, maybe tweeting about it, doing something about it? Can they actually all get together and make a safer place?
You might get flash mobs as well, because it works both ways.
Yeah. But the nice thing about this is, even in the most dangerous places in the world, it's only a small fraction of people that are malicious.
Yes.
So it should be the case that the other 99% should be able to take them if they're actually coordinated. The problem is they're not. So can we coordinate?
Is this
I think it's big. I think it's big. It's unclear that Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin apparently has some problems with inflation. But I think there's successors that actually don't have these problems. So either Bitcoin or one of its successors is going to be huge.
Would you care to tip one of the successors for next year?
I don't know which one's better.
No? Okay. But it will break out.
I don't know if next year, but I think a currency like that should break out. It just makes sense. I mean, a currency for the internet just makes sense.
Right.
I think for certain things you can actually ensure accuracy. In the case of our translations, when we translate stuff using students, it turns out that if you get multiple students, one single student is not very good at translating stuff. But if you get multiple of them and checking each other's work, they're actually quite good. In fact, about 20 students are equivalent in accuracy to a single professional translator.
Wow.
So they get, that's the idea. But at the same time, I think for some things we can get accuracy, especially in the cases where accuracy is well-defined. So in the case of translation, it's relatively well-defined.
Ladies and gentlemen, please would you thank Luis von Ahn.
Thank you.
You're terrific.
Thank you.